20,000 in debt to my father. I told him my dream and what I wanted to do with this new style of fitness coming into Australia. And then, a week later, we're in his business bank manager's office signing my first loan of 130,000. And 6 months later, KX Pilates was born in Melbourne, February 26, 2010.
Hey folks, there's a wonderful event happening next year over the June long weekend. From June 7th to 9th, the Bali AFL Masters is taking place and the SA team will have men's sides in the over 35s, over 45s and over 55s. If you want to join in the fun, check out the Southern Slugs Football Club Facebook page. What a pleasure it is today to have Aaron Smith from KX Pilates on the show.
Thank you, Bevan. Lovely to be here.
Now, tell us about the KX story and your story as well, Aaron. Where did it all begin? And tell us about your passion about nutrition and fitness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, my story begins way back when in my teenage years when fitness really changed my life. I had a knee reconstruction at 17, which then blew my weight out to 104 kilos after a compulsive eating disorder that I was pretty much out of control in my later teenage years. So it was the Sydney Olympics where I sat down and watched that 3 weeks straight, didn't really move off the couch. I got out of the hospital a day before the Olympics started and then got off the couch at 104 kilos. So that was probably the final straw though. It was probably a good 5 years of really pushing through this issue that I had with eating. I was really sporty, but at the same time I would come home and just gouge food and I was quite a big boy. So said enough is enough. Started everything to do with health, nutrition, eating, and really changed my life. I got down to like 86 kilos, 10% body fat. My confidence grew. I grew up being the best friend, not the boyfriend. So, my life changed after that. And then it led into my career as well. So I started traveling in my early 20s. I was always looking for something to do and own my own business. My father owned his own business for 45 years. So really ingrained in us that owning your own business was a great way to get ahead in life. So that enabled me to be a pretty terrible employee in the work that I did do. But 2 years out of America, big snowboarder. So I was in the resorts in Colorado there as a personal trainer and snowshoe instructor. Coming back and forth as well. I did finish my degree at that stage of exercise physiology, Monash University, and then went to London. So I was over in London in 3 years. I started out in London just, training people in Hyde Park. I was doing a bit of labouring on the side. And there wasn't much money in gyms over there. I did a bit of sports science back in Australia. And again, there wasn't much money in that. But then I stumbled across this ad for Dynamic Pilates, went to the studio, this Aussie guy, opened the door. He was the head trainer, taught me everything to do with that, fell in love with the style of fitness. And straight away, I knew that was the style I was going to bring back to Australia. So I didn't run off too quick. I actually spent 3 years there perfecting it, becoming head trainer myself, teaching all the trainers coming up. And I learned a hell of a lot about how to run a business and hell of a lot how not to run a business. And then came home in 2009, 20,000 in debt to my father. We were both pretty shocked when that happened. We sat down and he was paying off my business travel credit card, but we didn't realize how much it got up to. So I was like, holy shit, better get out and get a job to pay him back. I lasted 3 weeks back in the bar and gaming world because I refused to go into fitness until I had my own business. 3 weeks until I sat him down. I told him my dream and what I wanted to do with this new style of fitness coming into Australia. And then, a week later, we're in his business bank manager's office signing he signed as guarantor for my first loan of 130,000. And 6 months later, KX Pilates was born in Melbourne, February 26, 2010. So there's my whirlwind smack bang to opening. But mate, I could speak about this forever. So you direct me on where you want to go and
how many KX Pilates are there around Australia now, Aaron?
Mate, last Saturday in Australia, we opened number 100 and 101, both on the same day.
Congratulations.
Which was great to have two studios sharing that accolade. And we've got 10 studios in Southeast Asia from Taiwan, China, Singapore, Indonesia, and New Zealand. So our master franchises that we've sold into those countries have literally just begun. They sold last year or the year before. So they're just really opening up their concept company studios to really get the ground running, create that awareness of what dynamic or high intensity Pilates really is in those areas. They're a little bit behind the fitness industry of where Australia and the US and Europe are. So probably 5, if not a little bit more years behind. So they're doing a great job really getting the word out there. Boutique fitness is slowly coming into those countries. So it's going to be a really exciting future for those countries and a few more coming on soon too.
And the name KX, where'd that come from, Aaron?
Yeah, so KX stands for the kaizen experience, which is Japanese for change for the better or continuous improvement. It's really a philosophy that's instilled in the company. We live and breathe it every day. Our purpose at KX is changing lives for the better. That's not just our clients' lives, but our trainers, our franchise partners, our staff at head office. So, we really instill these messages and these values of, always learning. We're very humble. We think we do a very good job being the leaders in the boutique Pilates market in Australia, but at the same time, we're very respectful of our competitors. Everyone has their own space. I'm quite good friends with the few other founders and leaders of the other brands. So it's good competition, but also really healthy that we're all in our own lane doing something a little bit different. And it's just great to see that it's bringing more awareness to people to move their bodies and become fitter and healthier. And that's the main thing.
I can just see the smile on your face and the passion and the love that you're able to do something that you spoke before about not wanting to do personal training unless it was actually your own business. And the fact now you've got your own business and over 100 of those around the world. So something you should be very proud about, mate. So well done.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I want to go back to your stories before, because I've snow skied, I must admit. I've never snowboarded, and the amount of stacks I've had are just, there's just so many. What about with snowboarding? You had a couple of stories of some big stacks there?
I was really lucky. I grew up in a family where my mum and dad both loved skiing. So I started skiing between my dad's legs at 2 years old. I've got 2 older brothers, 5 and 7 years on me. So when the snowboarding craze hit in the 90s, I basically followed their lead and started snowboarding when I was 10. And yeah, every winter, that's probably why I wasn't really that good at football, because every winter we're running up to the snow as much as we can. So the winter sports really got pushed to the side so we could go and chase the white stuff. But when I turned 18, I started driving up to a few other mountains by myself. And then obviously, as I said, early 20s, I went overseas, and that just changed my world. Yeah, the experience, the height of the mountains over there, the length of the runs, the quality of snow, the après ski at the end of the day, the parties and stuff. That's obviously a lot of fun. But no, the mountains in Colorado is one of my happiest places. It was really good for me because when I first started KX, everyone's like, "Oh, what would your plan B have been if KX wasn't a success?" And to me, I was always going back and being a ski bum. If it didn't work out, I was just going to go be a ski bum because I knew that was where my passion was as well of snowboarding and being in the mountains. But I knew that if I did succeed, then I was going to go back and do it properly. So it was quite nice, that 10-year goal of KX in 2020. I took the wife and the kids over, and my parents came over, my wife's parents came over, and some really good friends. And we got a chalet there for 6 weeks. It was an incredible celebration. So the stories of snowboarding, look, mate, the one that stands out, the second day that I was in Colorado, I didn't have a phone yet. I hadn't acclimatized. So the top of Beaver Creek where I was at was 12,500 feet, which what's that conversion? 3,500 something meters, which is basically double any mountain in Australia. So walking upstairs, a flight of stairs by the top of it, you just absolutely stuffed. It takes you a good week to 2 weeks to acclimatize. But this second day, I was far left of the mountains, and I was like, "Oh, that valley over there looks really nice." So I dropped in, went across some trees, and ended up in this valley. And the snow was that deep, and I'd ridden powder before, but like maybe a foot, like not very deep at all. But I ended up, it was so deep, I stopped at the bottom, and I unstrapped my snowboard and I stepped out of it, and I sank down to my chest. And I've just gone, "Oh shit." And obviously panic set in straight away. So like I scrambled out of that, but then I tried to walk, and again, bang, sank down to my chest. And I was like, I'm in a bit of trouble here. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon. So, and the sun sets over there about 4:30, and that's when it really starts to get cold. Well, probably would have been already at -5, -10 degrees at the time. It's pretty cold there. So I literally army crawled. Probably I got 30 meters in about half an hour to 40 minutes, not very far at all. And I was just puffing, panting, sweating, and I would have to stop like every 5 to 10 meters. It was horrible. I actually thought I was going to be out there for the night, and all those documentaries that I'd watched in the past about building snow caves and everything like that. And so anyway, it took me 2 hours to get not very far, probably about 50 to 100 meters back up this mountain. And then I stopped for a break. The sun had started to set. It started to get dark. It started to get cold as well. And I just looked up and there was this little orange tag on a tree. And, I grew up with Cubs and Scouts and stuff like that. And Orient, I was like, maybe it's an orienteering horse or something to do with that. So I kind of looked everywhere around it, and like another 30 meters down, there was another orange. So I was like, hopefully this is the right way to go. So anyway, I went up a little bit higher, strapped into my snowboard, and then I took the path again. I was just trying to follow these trees. And after about 3 or 4 or 5 of these orange ones, I started picking up some speed again. It was on the downhill again. Anyway, it led me back around this valley into the very bottom of the furthest run that was on this mountain. The chairlift was there. It was closed, but there was a guy still working at the bottom of this tiny little hut, and I banged on the door and he's just opened up. He's just like, where the hell have you come from? This lift's been closed for half an hour. I'm just about to start it up to jump on to go home for them. So I told him my story, and he's just like, mate, you're incredibly lucky. Ski Patrol doesn't go where you were. It gets to minus 30, minus 40 degrees at the moment because there's no clouds in the sky tonight. So you would have been in a lot of trouble. And there was a stage there when I was pretty scared for my life. So, that was really lucky. Jumped on the lift, went back up, learnt many lessons then about always carrying phones on you and acclimatizing and staying on piste unless you know what you're doing. So, that's probably the big story that stands out. But in terms of stacks, and I've had plenty. Plenty. My coccyx bone still reminds me of it once in a while too. So.
I can actually share a story with you myself about a chairlift. And when I was a kid, I didn't know much about, I think it might have been one of the first or second times I'd been snow skiing with my family. And we're up, I think it might have been Mount Hotham or Buller, and we're on the chairlift. And I actually didn't know when to get off properly. So I've actually got stuck on the chairlift just before a massive cliff. And they've had to turn the whole chairlift off at the whole place, basically, because otherwise I would have gone over the edge and killed myself on a cliff. So you think my parents weren't freaking out then?
Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke. I don't know.
Thanks, mate. So there you go. We've both got a couple of interesting stories to share. And the lesson learned is
to be honest with you, I think you're not a good skier or snowboarder unless you've gone through the pain of being stuck on a chairlift or falling off the chairlift, or it's you kind of try and put them to the back of your memory. It's pretty embarrassing too, because you've got the whole lift lines and everyone watching you as well. So
it creates a good story though, like your story as well.
So. Yeah, absolutely.
And before we get back into the Pilates story, obviously you mentioned before, Aaron, you've spent a lot of time overseas. What are some of your favourite destinations? You touched on Colorado and your snow skiing, your snowboarding experiences. What are some of the other places you visited over the years that you've really loved, and why?
Yeah, so look, let's throw it out there. Travel is an absolute privilege that I've been really lucky to and fortunate to be able to do over the last 20 years or so. I got the travel bug when I started traveling in my early 20s, and then ended up bootstrapping that whole trip throughout when I was living in London. And I'd work 6 weeks and then I'd travel for 6 weeks and spend every single cent, and then went back, worked my butt off, and then again traveled again. So I think I was very lucky to do close to 40 countries in those 3 years. Barcelona is one of my favorite cities by far. Just the vibrancy and the culture that's there is incredible. Dahab in Egypt, I was a pretty big diver back in the day. So Dahab is known for one of the best diving destinations in the world, and that was absolutely incredible to dive all day and then get out and have beers with your mates afterwards. Is a pretty incredible holiday, if you ask me, to be around some of your best mates. And again, skiing in France, snowboarding in France was incredible. Geez, the list goes on. Jumping on horseback and riding around the pyramids in Egypt. We went to the World Cup cricket 2008 in the Caribbean. That was incredible.
Oh.
So we did 6 islands in 6 weeks. We did spring break in Cancun in Mexico, run with the Bulls in Spain, mate. The list goes on. I could talk about this forever. So
you could actually write a book just on your travels by the sounds of it.
Me and my best mate Rick at the time had a great time. Yeah.
I was going to say, you could almost write a book just on your travels.
I 100% could. And I've got a couple of travel stories in my new book, but I had to sit back and go, right, where are the lessons out of these stories that I can provide some value for? And obviously, you know, that story of getting lost in the snow was certainly one of many life lessons, which is in the book. But yeah, there's some incredible travel stories out there. I was held at gunpoint twice, one in Brazil, in Rio by the police randomly. We had one too many people in a taxi. Pulled the taxi over and all of a sudden had machine guns pointed at their heads, which was pretty scary. And again, we were pulled over in Grenada by local militia and basically searched, and our tour guide got robbed. And so, yeah, so there's been some. So that's one of the reasons why I truly attest travel to being one of my best teachers, because the amount of things that you learn, you know, what you've got to deal with, you really grow up, build confidence, you know, the adversity that comes with things that happen. There's been many a night I've been sleeping on train station floors because I've missed my train, or an airport floor, and, you know, getting to a place, not having accommodation, having to figure it out. Or so, yeah, it was a huge teacher, especially in my early 20s. And I couldn't recommend travel to you know, as many people as possible who can do it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I worked incredibly hard for 6 to 9 months before I went overseas and saved every single penny. But I was in the, you know, I was in a great position because I was living at home with mum and dad. I had no expenses, and so that kind of worked out really, really well to my favor. So, and also, you know, I had mum and dad's house to come to in the end when I was moving back to Australia and had no money and was in debt to my father and started the business. So
that's what parents are for, though, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And obviously Pilates, we know how popular it is around Australia and around the world now in general, but for people that are watching or listening today, Aaron, and might want to actually take up Pilates, what are the benefits of it, and why do you think they should get involved in it?
Yeah, so the Pilates industry is incredibly large now. I would say that reformer Pilates specifically, which is what the KX is about, we're high intensity reformer Pilates. Reformer Pilates is probably the most popular it has ever been. Now, rewind 13 years when we first started. Pilates in Australia was either mat Pilates at a gym, which is quite slow and boring. And after a couple of sessions, you're kind of like, meh, I don't feel like I'm getting a good workout. So most people move on, especially in a class with 30 to 50 people. They can't be tailored. Or you had your physiotherapy Pilates. So every physiotherapist in Australia at the time was bolting on a little Pilates studio to their practice. So when they treated their clients who were injured, then they put them through their Pilates, small group sort of workouts, which was slow, steady, really controlled to really get them back on their feet. But after they got back on their feet, there was nowhere for them to go. They went back to the gym or back to their sport or what have you. So the term of exercise or athletic Pilates as such kind of wasn't around back then. So to bring it into Australia at that time, boutique fitness wasn't even a thing back then. So there might have been a couple of yoga studios around. Bikram Yoga was pretty popular at that stage, but then, you know, his name got rubbed in the mud with a few things. So hot yoga was kind of starting to be a thing, but in terms of, you know, F45 started in 2013. So we were 3 years pre that. So we really had to pave the way for boutique fitness and also for Pilates and educate people what reformer Pilates really was, which is really, really hard in the beginning. But basically, reformer Pilates, we're on a reformer machine. We run 50-minute classes at KX, and we're high intensity, which means we sequence all of our exercises. So there's very, very little rest. So we might go from an upper body exercise to a lower body exercise, but we sequence them in the fact that the springs, the resistance, we change as little as possible. So we can keep up that heart rate the whole time and really get the heart rate moving and the intensity high. Where, again, even traditional reformer Pilates, you put on a certain spring, you'd do 10 reps, you'd get off, you'd change the spring, you'd put a box on or another apparatus, you'd do another 10 reps, you'd get off. So by the end of a 45, 50-minute class, you probably only worked out for 20 minutes because there was so much stopping and starting. And also at KX, we do a lot more of the dynamic moves of jump boards or squats and lunges and using the big power muscles. We do, chest press. A lot of the exercises actually are things that you would see in the gym, but because of the machine that you were on, and at KX as well, we have our own customized individual machines called the KX Former that's only seen in KX studios as well, which is pretty cool. Your core is being challenged the entire time. So where you're sitting down in the gym doing a chest press and it's everything is still and stable and you're going up, At KX, you might be on your knees and there's a moving, the platform, the carriage is moving underneath you. So you've got to maintain your balance. Your core's got to be activated, but at the same time, you're still working that chest. So it's incredible also because it's low impact. So the machine and the movements and stuff, we do it at quite high pace, but it's very, very low impact. So it's high intensity, low impact. And that's, I think, fantastic. A, if you have any niggling injuries. B, for as we get older, my knees and my joints aren't what they used to be. So really high impact things in the gym are quite hard to do, or you're recovering for days afterwards. So, and yeah, it's more of an endurance burn as well. So we certainly don't lift heavy things. It's a lot more of like a 20 plus repetition on that spring-loaded reformer machine. I hope I've answered that question somewhat.
No, you've answered.
Please ask me. This is what I live and breathe. So if you still don't know what it is, or you've got any other questions, just shoot out. I'll happily explain it all.
No, you've answered it beautifully. And obviously, you talked before about your own journey as an entrepreneur, and why are you so passionate about helping out other entrepreneurs? And tell us about this competition that you've got at the moment, Aaron, where you're giving away $20,000 to one lucky business.
Yeah, so look, I've got three main passions in my life. First is people. I really genuinely care about people and trying to help them. It's something that I've, one of my beliefs and value systems through my parents. My father and my mother were always helping people in the community around when we lived and grew up. So it's something that I can give back. I think you get to a stage in life where you want to give back. That's always been something that I've wanted to do. Fitness, obviously, a huge passion of mine. So training people, helping people, and I really resonated with those clients back in the day because I'd been where they were. Say they wanted to lose weight or get fit, and there's a lot of times you give up, and then there's this vicious cycle. If you start again, you give up, but I could really break through a lot of clients and really change it. It's all about lifestyle at the end of the day. You need to fit exercise, nutrition, everything into your lifestyle, make it a part of who you are to really see long-term change. It's like anything, consistency is key. So that really resonated with me, and I passed that on. And then as I started KX Pilates, we got to probably 3 studios in the beginning, and I just realized that I didn't love the day-to-day runnings of a studio, of a Pilates business. Like I wanted something bigger. And then when the franchising opportunity came to me as a way to grow, I was like, right, my passion can now stay with people, stay with fitness, but also it's now in business. And to be able to help people, opening a business is a dream of so many people. And to be able to assist them in opening a business and being successful in business, it still is, an incredible feeling and something I'm really, really passionate about. Some of our franchise partners are absolutely dominating with, 5 to even 10 KX studios. They started out with one, and just to see their journey, it's incredible. It's changed their life. They've got financial freedom. And, it's just great. Like, don't get me wrong. They've worked very, very hard to achieve it as well. It's not like they've just opened their doors and it's all work. But it's a relationship, and it's, and we're in it together. And that's the beauty of the model that we have in franchising in KX is unless they succeed, then we don't succeed as franchisor. So it's a really healthy symbiotic relationship of everyone coming together.
So yeah, that's no, you've answered it beautifully. And before I let you go as well, has there ever been a time where a business has approached you and you thought, yeah, no, this is not the best idea, and how have you approached that situation?
Oh, look, there's been many a terrible idea, but the main thing is you keep bringing up the ideas. That's the whole. I'm really passionate as well about innovation, and innovation is like 95% failing. It's really hard to just go about it. Like the KX formers I was talking about before, our machines. It took me 5 years, $250,000, 2 trips to China. I think we put 90 of them into studios for my first manufacturer that they just weren't perfect, and I wasn't happy with them. Now we've gone back to our American manufacturer for Balanced Body. It's been an incredible relationship from the start, but back at the very beginning, I was too small to talk to them. And then as we grew, all of a sudden I was making some noise, and the conversations came back with some great connections that I have in Australia with that brand. So, innovation is tough. I absolutely love that. Stories as well. When I first opened my first franchise, I sold my first 3 franchises, I got, a couple of $100,000 in. to the bank. And I didn't put that back into KX Pilates at the time. I was like, my entrepreneurial brain was like, well, what else can we do? And I was traveling a lot pre-kids to America and Europe and stuff like that. And I was just seeing all the other styles of fitness that were coming out there. So within 2 years, I had 6 ballet bar studios under KX. I had a yoga studio under KX. I had a cycle studio under KX with some business partners. And I had retreats coming out of Bali that we would take. So all of a sudden, I just went bang. And that was so much fun to do. There was a lot of time spent. There was a lot of energy. But at the same time, KX was kicking off. And when we moved to Sydney, me and my wife, Andy, everyone was like, oh, where's your yoga studio up here? Where's this? But it was just a very confusing market. So, it was a conference in 2016 in America where a guy got up there. He was the CEO of similar to a Just Cuts brand. He had 2,000 units across America. And he's like, we cut hair. That's all we do. And we make our systems, our processes better. We innovate within the brand. And just a light bulb went off to me. And I went, what am I doing? Get back in the KX Pilates brand. So I literally flew home and de-badged them all, sold them off. And individually, they're all doing still quite well. But as the franchise of KX was kicking off. So I always think to myself, what would have happened if I spent that original money back at KX? Where would we be now? But saying that, I've spent a lot of lessons and a lot of expensive lessons, I call them, but I've learned a lot over the years about it. And it's been an incredible journey.
And it's really inspiring as well, Aaron. Like myself with my own journey with Legends with Bevo, I've spent countless amounts of dollars over the years. And I just love speaking to people like yourself. And it's just inspires people like me to keep going with it, knowing that, one day it could just be a full-time thing. And how good looking back at that would that be? And then, you're a perfect example that these things can happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. You just got to put your head down. And what people forget is that opportunities come to you when you put yourself out there. So you sit back now and go, well, I'm not going to be down. I don't want to be doing this same grind forever. But if you can see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, or you're improving next week than you did last week, and you keep going up and up, all of a sudden as well, the more the traction you get, the different people you'll speak to, the more connections that you make, doors start opening, opportunities start opening, and then you never know where you're never going to be. So no, business is an incredible journey, that's for sure.
And give you a booker plug again, mate. You've just mentioned before.
Yeah, so that's right. I didn't answer the question also about the travel grant. So no, last Monday we launched my first book, Define Yourself: When Passion, Purpose, and Business Collide. There's a lot of people in the book about how I grew KX to the success it is today. So yeah, that was to me just basically a memoir of the journey of KX, all the lessons that I've made along the way, or the mistakes that I've made along the way, and the lessons and the highs and lows of business. I put everything out there. It's a very raw encounter of the growth, all the way through to employing our CEO in 2018 and stepping to the side to really focus on family. And I love being the founder of KX and doing these sort of things as well. As you can see, passion kind of exudes from the business. So yeah, it's a great book. It's really got everything in it for the young entrepreneur, the startup, all the way to, is my business franchisable? What if I'm going to join a franchise? What to expect? Or, even if you were to join KX, what to expect as well? Because our vision and our mission and our values and everything that kind of encapsulates KX is in that book. And to coincide with that as well, we launched our entrepreneurial travel grant, which is a $20,000 grant for a young, savvy business entrepreneur in Australia who has an idea that they can use travel like I did as a means to really perfect that idea and go overseas or Australia. It doesn't have to be overseas, but just to really get some more ideas, creative thinking, and to bring it together, which also comes with a mentorship from myself and my team for 12 months too, to really bring that idea to life. So again, it's just our way of giving back. In the book, we're giving a lot of value to the startup, to the young entrepreneur, but in terms of the people just with ideas, how we're going to help them. Because again, I was very fortunate to be in a position where I could travel. I was very fortunate in a position where my parents backed me. There's a lot of people out there who don't have that support. So, with a bit of luck, this $20,000 will change someone's life for the better. Yeah, and hopefully bring an incredible business idea to life.
Well, Aaron Smith, thanks so much for joining us today. Obviously, congratulations on everything you're doing at the moment with KX Pilates. And obviously, KX Pilates, you can follow that on Instagram and all the other socials. Is that correct?
That's correct, mate. Handle at KX Pilates everywhere you look. We are there. But thank you for having me on, Bevo. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Keep up the great work, and we'll look forward to following your journey.